Hey guys, so we're about to start a brand new week in South Korea, but let's go over how Min Hee-jin's court injunction against Hybe ended way messier than her hair ever could have been. It's a mess. It's a tangled weave. I don't know if there are cobwebs in there, but definitely cobwebs of misdirection, gnats, lice. Oh, it was messy in court for Min Hee-jin's mama. You know, there were a lot of headlines that were all over the place because this whole injunction itself was all over the place because Min Hee-jin is doing a lot of misdirection. So let's just try to distill it down into what is actually the legal question. And I think this is sweet revenge or karma or just the way that the law is working, because back in April when she won the injunction to prevent Hybe's shareholders and ADOR's shareholders from firing her, she was able to manipulate the technicalities of the law. Now it seems she is suffering and being put at a disadvantage by the very technicalities in the law that she thought that she was probably above. So what exactly happened last Friday, October 11th, Korea time? There was a hearing at the Seoul Central District Court to determine the validity of her latest injunction request. An injunction, that word injunct, basically means to stop or to prevent. Hybe, ADOR, they're running their business, right? They are making decisions. What an injunction does is you get the force of the law to tell a company or anybody to stop that decision. So injunct basically means stop. So she was trying to injunct something, but the court just doesn't immediately be like, okay, let's injunct it or let's not injunct it. The actual filing of the injunction, they have to see, is this a valid claim even to consider right now? And that was what this hearing was doing, and is messy. It was messy because what Min Hee-jin was trying to injunct wasn't even up for injuncting. So this judge is the same judge that sided with her or sided with the law, however you want to look at it. His name is Kim Sang-hoon. I think we need to call out these judges. Put your name on your product. If you're making this ruling, we should really know how you're making them. And so this judge, Kim Sang-hoon, is the same one. And it looks like he's kind of turning towards Hybe's side because it's a little bit difficult to really go too far down a rabbit hole, no matter how much grease is in there. So what's a little bit weird about this situation is that she's trying to injunct a meeting that's happening on October 17th, but they haven't decided whether to injunct it or not, and they're actually giving both sides until October 25th time to submit more arguments or evidence, receipts. So the reason why I think the judge has changed his tune a little bit is that this is how they actually also use just the technicality of the law to signal which side they're now siding with. Min Hee-jin is trying to injunct something that's coming up this Thursday, October 17th. But the judge also said that, well, before I make a decision on this, I'm going to give you guys more time to submit evidence and submit the receipts. But that's going to be October 25th. He's going to rule on something she's trying to injunct on the 17th, but the ruling for that is going to probably come out in the end of October or November, because he's saying that, oh, I'm going to make a speedy decision. So October 17th is going to be an additional shareholder meeting. They call it an extraordinary shareholder meeting. That doesn't mean it's extra special, but I guess from your perspective, it could be. It just basically means an unplanned or non-scheduled meeting because we have something we need to take care of right away. And on the agenda for that is going to be the renewal of Min Hee-jin's board seat. So Hybe has already said, now it's becoming clearer how Hybe has been quietly but very strategically and smartly playing the legal game, because they already saw that Min Hee-jin did a number with the legal game. So they're doing it extra good. So they are going to propose that, hey, Min Hee-jin, we're going to renew your seat on the board of directors. Aren't you happy about that? And she is trying to injunct, but injunct technically with the law is stopping. So does she want to stop Hybe from renewing her board seat? What she did wrong, essentially, is that she injuncted too late, because she's already been fired from her CEO position. She should have injuncted or tried to stop that back in August. They already canceled her shareholder agreement. She should have tried to injunct that before it happened. So her weapon right now is just like a block. So it's like a shield. And it only is good against an action that Hybe is about to do, and she's gonna say, nope, I got a ruling from the judge saying that you can't do that. But they already did it, and she didn't stop it or injunct it back in the summertime. She's a little bit too late. And this is why it's messy, because even the judges, the lawyers, everybody there just like, why are we here? Because there's nothing for you to injunct at this meeting that's going to be happening on Thursday. So you see like how technically she really has nothing to stand on here. However, she's making it messy, and she's trying to, like, have a bee in her bonnet so that she can do some fake tears. October 17th, the shareholders meeting is also, hey, is J-Hope's return from the military. And I think she's probably trying to steal his thunder, but it'll probably make him or her look a lot worse, because it looks like Hybe has much more of a celebratory, positive, and a place of strength to say on October 17th, hey, we renewed Min Hee-jin's board of directors seat, and welcome home, J-Hope. So she would just be looking like sour grapes and trying to create drama when there is none. However, did she not have a plan B? Of course she does. October 15th, 2 days before October the 17th shareholder meeting and J-Hope's return, that's when Hanni is scheduled to go to the National Assembly to testify about workplace abuse. So you could see how strategically she timed this to try to get public opinion on her side 2 days before, like in an October surprise, and make it so that Hybe is the villain. So therefore, Hybe would feel a bit tough in a tough situation for the shareholder meeting, but I don't think that's going to work. Now, I gave this a little bit of thought. I'm like, how can Hanni go in there with a straight face? How can even the National Assembly accept this testimony to talk about workplace bullying and abuse with a straight face, no matter how much gravy has been poured into their coffers? I do think that there probably is some gravy swimming around. You can probably, test their shirt sleeves stained with some gravy. But even without the gravy, what I think is happening here is that Hanni is Vietnamese by ethnicity, nationality, Australian. Those are two big trading partners for Korea, and especially Vietnam is where a lot of Korean conglomerates have set up manufacturing bases, and they do a lot of business back and forth. Don't you think that there's some disgruntled Vietnamese people angry at their abusive Korean bosses. What this does is signal to the people in Vietnam who are angry at Korea to kind of put a lid on it, because here, look at this success case of this young Vietnamese girl who is a K-pop star, and she has complaints about workplace bullying, but what? It's only about that nobody said hello to her in a proper way. That's not even her culture that she is complaining about as part of workplace abuse because she feels ignored. Oh, Korea must be wonderful. Korea must be great if that counts as discrimination and workplace bullying against a Vietnamese person. I think the National Assembly is trying to play a game here because there's a lot of disgruntledness going on with labor violations, always, but in particular now with Southeast Asia, because it's been such a strong trading partner, but basically means that there's been a lot of interaction, a lot of work, and probably a lot of stuff that actually needs to be resolved. But it looks like maybe the National Assembly is trying to do a solid for some of these big companies and brush this kind of stuff under the rug by making it look like, oh, well, in Korea, they treat Vietnamese people so well that the only thing she has to complain about is a hello and a goodbye. All right, so what actually happened at the hearing? Min Hee-jin's side said that this was an unjustified firing. There was no takeover attempt. Hybe has to honor the Procure clause, or essentially a clause in their shareholder agreement that basically says, Hybe, you have to go along with whatever I want to do at the board of directors meeting, which includes being hired as CEO whenever I want to be hired. And then ILLIT is copying us. That was the gist of Min Hee-jin's side. Hybe had a lot to bring to the table because they had a lot of receipts and probably had a ton of things to say. So turned on the spigot and it was like a fire hose. So main thing with Hybe is, again, they're saying like there's nothing to injunct here. So they're playing that smart and cool kind of like, well, we don't even know what we're doing here because you're trying to stop us from doing something, but all we're trying to do is keep you on the board of directors. November 1st, your board membership as a director would have expired, but at this meeting that we're going to be having on October 17th, we're going to renew it. So what you trying to injunct? But of course, they didn't just leave it there. They're saying that there's of course, no reason or validity to the injunction request, but they are replying and responding to Min Hee-jin's lawyer's points about the Procure clause. Now, this Procure clause, like I said, was an agreement in Min Hee-jin's shareholder agreement that said that Hybe must go along essentially with what she wants to do whenever she's in a board meeting. So because Hybe is 80% shareholder of ADOR, they can always vote to say like, no, no, no. And in theory, yes, but in her shareholder agreement, she kind of worked it in where basically they're saying that like, well, this was a perk of her employment so that Hybe would basically agree as with however she wants to run the company. It was probably one of these assurances when there was a lot of trust in her that, hey, we're going to let you have freedom to produce the way you want to, run the sub-label the way you want to, and we'll make it in our agreement that we're going to go along with your decisions. However, that is under a high trust environment, and she's arguing that no matter what, even if things go south, you have to honor that. Well, first of all, Hybe is saying like, sorry, well, that shareholder agreement that contained the Procure clause, that's canceled anyway. But even if it were the case, the way that this hearing showed legally was that it's more of just a gentleman's agreement. It's nothing that can be enforced. You can't force Hybe to go along with a gentleman's agreement. So this agreement saying like, okay, yeah, Min Hee-jin, as Hybe, we're gonna just go with, however you want to run it, and we'll put it in our agreement. But when push comes to shove, if Hybe says like, look, okay, we don't trust you anymore and we can't go along with all of your decisions, and they basically showed in court that Hybe is right, that Hybe does not have to go along with anything she says. Why is this important and why does it make sense? And thank goodness the law seems to lean towards this. Let's say Min Hee-jin just decided and she still controlled the board and said like, I wanna like, you know, knock the knees out of all the other girl group members, and Hybe, you have to go along with it. That kind of gentleman's agreement does not mean that Hybe has to follow a gentleman's agreement but break a real law. You know, if she wanted to hire hitmen and pay for it with ADOR funds, Hybe does not have to go along with it because they have to honor the agreement with her, more important than they have to actually follow actual laws. And in this case, following actual laws also includes protecting the shareholders' investments. And so this was a message, I think, from Hybe straight to the judge, because not only did they make that argument, they also brought a ton of receipts. They went to Korea's legal elite community, academic community, and got all of these testimonies saying that, yes, this Procure clause is not enforceable. You can't have a judge tell Hybe to honor the Procure clause first over everything else. There is no legal justification for it, and there is no legal precedent. No other judge did it. So that was a very smart move on Hybe, because they know that they have to make sure that this judge better fall in line with the law, no matter how much gravy he may or may not have received, because there's also now stuff coming out saying that his network or relations or direct or indirect seems a little bit sus when it comes to favoring Min Hee-jin, so he's gonna have to walk it back because now there's a lot of eyes on this. But they're doing it in the right way. They're actually doing it in the legal way and giving the judge his homework. Like, they've done the work for the judge when he writes the briefs. He's basically saying like, okay, well, this academic thing, this academic analysis, blah, 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 and probably lifting and like pretending it like he actually did it. So Hybe has done the work for him to steer him in a direction where it's a legally sound ruling to reject Min Hee-jin's argument for like, y'all have to do what I have to say because I agreed with Hybe and they said that they would do whatever I had to say. That is only a gentleman's agreement. Not only that, Hybe also brought some receipts and said that, look, of course there was a takeover plot. Not only was it neatly organized by Min Hee-jin and her minions in a document called Project 1945. You can't even get more neater and organized than that. But they also presented this evidence that we have seen through the Kakao Talk messages that her vice president in January 23rd, 2024, was meeting with asset managers, finance people, to prepare an ADOR IPO, like an initial public offering, or an opportunity for people to invest in ADOR and then be able to take over the company. Min Hee-jin is still using the line that, oh, only had 20%, therefore a takeover is impossible. Whereas we've seen that if you get other investors and we have the evidence that you are looking at other investors and planning an investment product where then you would be able to get more than 20%, do 50% plus one, and then take over in a hostile takeover of ADOR. And again, the way that you have to stress this with the court is the implications that ruling in Min Hee-jin's favor would have on the overall Korean economy or even corporate law. If she gets away with this, the entire economic structure, like even in an honest way, would collapse Korea, because Korea would be uninvestable. There's no protection for your investments. It can be stolen and hijacked by rogue employees. So we may think that, and there are a lot of cases where the law and society really favors the investor class, the capital class, basically rich people or owners too much. But on the other hand, we need to have laws that protect investments, because everybody, no matter how rich or not rich you are, most likely if you're living in this society, you are going to run across a situation where you need to trust that the system is going to honor your ownership of something. You spend all your life and you pay off a house. You want to trust the system that the house will be yours and cannot just be stolen legally through strange maneuvers by somebody. Then you really don't even trust what you're supposed to trust, because you think that, oh, it's going to be manipulated. Min Hee-jin also leaked the entire shareholder agreement to Korea Economic Daily. That is a major newspaper media company, and they have TV as well. They also, I believe, are the Wall Street Journal partners. So it's the conduit for Wall Street Journal content to get out into Korea. And they published direct screenshots of copies of the shareholder agreement. It wasn't even just kind of bullet points. It was like she faxed or scanned the actual shareholder agreement and gave it to Korea Economic Daily. Hybe argued that that violated the confidentiality clause in the agreement and is legal grounds to cancel the shareholder agreement. So just that one thing alone is the legal basis for canceling the shareholder agreement. Remember how when Hybe said that they worked this into the court when they made the decision to cancel the shareholder agreement and also fire her from the CEO position, that they were going to not even wait to be challenged. They're going to prepare the way to make the legal system also give it a approved check mark on this. And that one thing essentially would violate the shareholder agreement. And so why is she complaining about spilled milk? Hybe also said Min Hee-jin damaged ADOR by making official public statements in the name of ADOR, but when it was really her own personal positions to defend herself. Now, of course, legally, she and ADOR are not one. No matter how much she wanted to believe that she was ADOR and that there was no separating her and ADOR. And do we really even have to mention, but we kind of have to because of her actions, she's not a member of New Jeans, no matter how many hats she wants to buy. Hybe also said she interfered, sabotaged, and adulterated the workplace bullying and sexual harassment investigation. She was supposed to be neutral. She even went out to the world and said she was so neutral, and she even castigated her VP, Lee Sang-ho. But it turns out, and we've already seen the evidence from this, she was protecting him. She was even helping him draft his statement to the company in the investigation process to help him get out of trouble. Even direct word-for-word copying of text she sent him via Kakao Talk text went into his official statement to the company. Not only that, Hybe reiterated that she tried to institutionalize bullying and abuse of power. She was asking the company HR team, like, can we punish false accusers? Can we punish this accuser for making a false accusation? Even though that it looks like there is a lot of merit and truth to this accuser's testimony and now lawsuit against the company, what that move does and signals is that she wants to shut up the accuser by threatening economic damage and harm and to prevent other whistleblowers. That is like 12,000 steps backwards in the direction of workplace progress, especially for Korea, which has always battling this image of being a developed country or not. And mainly from the Korean people themselves, they have this complex of not wanting to be seen as an undeveloped country. And so what she is doing is actually besmirching the reputation of all the hardworking and honest people of Korea. The ILLIT distraction, which has absolutely no legal validity. Remember, we're talking about whether this is even a valid injunction. There's no legal validity in this injunction, so it's a complete dog and pony show. Even through her messiness of trying to use this as a weapon in this injunction, I think she just shot herself. Now, the reason why we know it's ILLIT is because Han Ji-eun, the reporter who had been on a lot of other articles that were pro Min Hee-jin, exposed to the public that it was ILLIT's manager. So Hybe was also trying to make the point that, we didn't reveal this. It was somebody who was writing from the media that has a history of being pro Min Hee-jin. Now, she previewed, of course, to the press that there was going to be a new shocking whistleblower claim and evidence submitted to the court. See, she doesn't care about the validity of whether this belongs on the menu in this particular meal at the court, because it had nothing to do with it. But she brought the potluck over because she wanted to have a headline that said that she is going to submit shocking new evidence from a whistleblower to the court. That was the whole purpose of this. She's using taxpayer dollars to help her media smear campaign. So even, let's go for this shocking whistleblower, as far as I know, there was not even an affidavit, there was not even a testimony. It's just the conjecture that there was a whistleblower inside of Hybe that proved that ILLIT's team requested New Jeans branding deck. Now, what she is doing is using the half-truth. The way that ILLIT and Hybe responded to this immediately was saying, like, there is no validity to this claim whatsoever, and they even backed it up with the dates. So July 21st, 2023 is when ILLIT's branding deck and strategy and all that kind of stuff was finalized and shared within the Hybe building. So it's very clear, and there's a lot of evidence that they were done. Like, they were saying, like, okay, this is our branding concept for ILLIT, and that's July 2023. When the creative director of ILLIT got the New Jeans branding deck, it's being alleged, was August 28th, 2023. So more than 1 month after ILLIT's team was like, okay, here's our branding concept, more than a month after ILLIT's team got New Jeans branding deck probably emailed. Now, they didn't say this, but what I think happened, because this creative director, remember, was the one that, Instagrammed, storied a picture of her laced middle finger in an elegant lace glove. I think that counts as demure and mindful during Min Hee-jin's April press conference when she was dragging all of these other girl groups over at Hybe. Now, what I think happened was that perhaps New Jeans or Min Hee-jin was the one copying ILLIT. And if I were the creative director, after submitting all of my branding deck in July to everybody and then hearing that, no, she can't be copying, because, they probably hear tons of talk in that building. She probably wanted to get her hands on actual proof that New Jeans was gonna copy ILLIT or something. And so that's probably why she wanted to get a copy of it. What use does it have after they've already published their branding concept? So the timeline is really the truth, but Min Hee-jin is spinning this into something that couldn't have happened in reality And as far as we know, this court is trying to make judgments on the validity of things that are real. And the weirdest argument is that she's saying that you must make me CEO again. If not, every time you decide not to make me CEO, you owe me about $10 million. About 10 billion won, so maybe that's $8 or $9 million. But in Korean, that is pegok. That's a huge money kind of like psychologically a huge number. That's gonna make her look really money grubbing. That's gonna make her look really out of touch with reality. And even just, I think if the public, if they weren't paying attention, and if Hybe was smart, they would bring it up and be like, you know, she's the pegok girl trying to shake down and threaten a company. Now, the reason that this is so weird is that this doesn't look like a very good strategy in any case. Maybe she's trying to do something where it can be a media play, but I don't even think that's gonna work. So again, she's trying to enforce this whole Procure thing that like, hey, if I want to decide that I want to be the CEO, then Hybe has to back me up with its 80% shares in our shareholder meeting. Now Hybe's saying like, no, we have a snake in our bosom, so that gentleman's agreement is gone. And she's trying to enforce this and say like, look, you must make me the CEO. Now, the reason why I think that this is really not going to work is, again, when you go into court like this, especially in Korea, you have to appeal to the ramifications of these rulings because they become a past precedent, which basically means it becomes justification for which way the law should go. If you go with Min Hee-jin and another Min Hee-jin pops up later, because you know that once she wins like this, there's going to be other Jezebels thinking like, well, maybe I should go to the JIT, Jezebel Institute of Technology, or Treachery, and side with that. Now, the way that this is really just a stupid legal argument is that no company and their shareholders is going to want to be blackmailed, threatened by an employee, no matter how high that employee is, or, you know, like if the employee in question right now we're talking about is the CEO, no matter how powerful or, you know, big shot of a person a CEO is, no shareholder is going to want to be threatened by an employee like this trying to take over the company and trying to devalue their investment. So if you just think about like maybe like your house, let's say you had a tenant come in, be like a roommate and paying the rent, and you even cover their rent, and they find a way to steal the deed to your house or force you to sell it to them at a bargain basement price. We have the evidence that Min Hee-jin had planned this, was enacting on this in order to force Hybe to sell to her and her investors ADOR at a really throwaway Salvation Army price. And so what she did was hold the artists hostage. So what this Hybe is arguing is that this can happen again in the entertainment industry. Not only did they talk about the 50-50 situation where minority shareholders or no shareholders can try to usurp the entire company, they're saying that the strategy, the recipe for this is that you hold the artist hostage in your control, which basically means that if you don't do what I want, if the shareholders do not do what Min Hee-jin wants, then I can basically make your investment worthless, because this company is only worth something because of these artists. I control these artists and I can find a way to kick them out or do whatever, where basically you're going to lose all your money for sure if I mess this all up. However, you can cooperate and we can still, then that's the thing. Then that starts to change who is holding the gun. Well, if you cooperate, then maybe we can save your investment and maybe get you a little bit of a profit. It turns the tables, whereas the shareholders is supposed to be the one in power. It turns the tables where then they have absolutely no power. And the reason that I think this was a stupid move is that this is trying to challenge the entire power structure of Korea. Already she's saying, like, I can't do anything with 20%. 20% is a lot. There are a lot of big Korean conglomerates, family controlled, right? Remember we went over this term, it's family controlled but not family owned. Most of these top conglomerates, like including Samsung, they're not 50% plus one owned by the founding family. They have very small percentages, but they're able to engineer it so that they still have control. So this makes it even more risky for family-controlled conglomerates in Korea to lose control from somebody who wants to do a coup or betrayal or hijack or do some hostile takeover that's not even a copacetic way to do a hostile takeover, but just a real manipulative, scheming, Jezebel Institute of Treachery type of way. So again, this whole hearing was about whether there's any validity to an injunction. Remember, injunct, stop. She's trying to get Hybe to stop something that they're not going to do because they already did do it. So where is the validity in even doing the Procure clause? And the judge asked Min Hee-jin's lawyers, do you have any legal cases to back up your request? And they said no. Yeah, because it doesn't exist. And Hybe has already presented its side saying that we went to all the legal experts in Korea. They say it doesn't exist. So the judge went to Min Hee-jin's side and said, like, okay, well, they say it doesn't exist and there's a lot of people backing them up on that. Do you have any examples or court cases where I can refer to and then make a decision? Does everybody do the homework for the judges? Anyhow, and they were like, no, we don't have any, but we'll look into it. We'll try to find some. They ain't never gonna find any. So they already know that they were in a losing cause. And I think that explains even the facial expressions of the lawyers at the April press conference. But they're probably just trying to see how far this thing can go, because she whipping up a whole Thanksgiving dinner out of this gravy. So they're probably thinking like, well, maybe we'll get fed at the end. When the best you can hope for is just licking the gravy dish. So then the judge was like, okay, well, if that's not gonna fly, then what are you trying to injunct? There's nothing on the agenda for the shareholders meeting for you to injunct, girl. So what you trying to injunct? And she's like, well, I'm gonna put it on the agenda. Doesn't make sense. So she's gonna try to put something on the agenda for her to then stop. So if I was a petty shareholder, I would say, like, let's flood this agenda with items that take way too long, and maybe we'll get to her agenda item, like the wallpaper on the 16th floor, whether they have to change the tiles, maybe some new computer upgrades because we still can't find her laptop, maybe some ceiling lights, just anything. So what are the next steps forward? I think we need to blow the lid on the Kakao connection. Is there one or is there not? And put the onus on the Kakao Entertainment CEO, Kim Sung-soo in particular, to explain himself. Why did he show up in the Kakao Talk messages where she said that she was gonna partner with him to take over Hybe and do a hostile takeover? Kim Sung-soo, who are you? Are you really in cahoots with Min Hee-jin? Because now it's beginning to look like the more you are associated with this woman, the less credibility or no credibility you have whatsoever. You're destroying your reputation by being associated with her. And see, like, whether she was just saying that out of conjecture, or do you really have an agreement and have been working behind the scenes to sabotage Hybe with perhaps the 5 Eagle brothers? Who are them 5 Eagle brothers? What kind of shamanistic Dollar Shave Club type of thing is going on with the 5 Eagle brothers? Now, who is this guy? He seems like a really accomplished guy, and it would be quite a tragedy if an association with Min Hee-jin was gonna bring him down, because he survived some embezzlement accusations of his own, but the court cleared him of that. But that's the shady stuff that I was able to find. But on the whole, his career seems to be quite good, and that he's done actually a lot of great things for the Korean entertainment industry. He's like a CJ man through and through. He got his start at CJ's, I believe, advertising unit, and then he moved on to the entertainment division of CJ. His biggest title was to be the CEO of CJ E&M. CJ E&M right now, hey, looks pretty strong, but when he took over, he was really the underdog, and he was able to compete with the terrestrial broadcasters. Now, because of Netflix and all the streaming platforms producing a lot of K content, we're looking at like KBS, SBS, NBC as sort of fuddy-duddies. But even during that time, which is about like 2014-ish, when I believe he became like the CEO and started doing really great things, the CJ products, CJ channels, were essentially the cable channels that were always like second class compared to like SBS, KBS, and NBC, because they were like the kings and queens of the K-drama. He literally put the non-major networks on the map in creating hits like Superstar K, Mishang, the Reply series, Grandpa Over Flowers. So he really made it viable, it looks like. At least this profile of him glowed about how, you know, it looked like he really did have a hand in bringing new trends to the K-drama industry, great shows, and prove that you don't have to be one of the big dogs. So in a way, though, it seems when we're talking about this is that he's kind of like, does have a resonance with Min Hee-jin's vibe of usurping whoever's the major power player. So maybe they are actually kindred spirits in that way. I don't know to what extent he would be untrustworthy if he's on the same wavelength as Min Hee-jin, as outright betrayal. Probably have to ask Mickey Lee about that. Mickey Lee is the head honcho of the CJ E&M group, basically part of the controlling family. And she's the one that like accepted the Academy Award for, it was either Parasite or Minari. And so she's a big wig. Anyhow, so remember how Kakao acquired SM Entertainment? So this Kim Sung-soo guy was very instrumental at that. So it's like, okay, well, why wouldn't you just be satisfied with acquiring SM Entertainment, because obviously that still needs to be digested and is not digested very well. And there was a lot to deal with whether that was a stock manipulation play where they were able to beat out Hybe to acquire SM Entertainment. But now it's just looking, he's still been busy, because this looks really shady in the sense of Min Hee-jin, it looked like she wasn't just going to stop at Hybe and ADOR. Like, she was going to use Bang Si-hyuk, destroy Hybe, take ADOR. then also in the way that looks, because now the onus is on Mr. Kim Sung-soo, like, you know, come out and, like, you know, sever ties with this Jezebel. But it looks like now y'all in cahoots where you was going to use ADOR as a platform then to really take over the music industry in a way. But really it looks like Min Hee-jin was going to use you, Mr. Kim Sung-soo, like you were going to be the fool to be used, and that she would eventually find a way to take over Kakao Entertainment, take that out, and then she gets to be the empress. In that, if that slick move, because I'm sure that, you know, the shaman's end game is total world domination. In that end move, she would not only have just started as a graphic designer at SM Entertainment and then now own SM Entertainment, but own it plus a little bit of extra, because SM Entertainment is just now one of the subsidiaries of Kakao Entertainment Group. So she's going to have everybody bow at her. But just as Kakao acquired, it seems, SM Entertainment through cheating, she would acquire this also through cheating and manipulation. And you can see, like, if you do it that way, the product that you get, actually, it's just like a hollowed out shell, because by that time, people just can't stand that stuff and they're just leaving. And ironically, she was trying to make ADOR a hollowed out shell for her to then force Hybe to sell it to her at a basement price to just get rid of it. Well, thank goodness, because where she goes is a path of destruction that leads to hollowed out shells. How does she know so much about it to use that phrase so frequently? So Mr. Kim Sung-soo, you were a groundbreaker at CJENM, but you should have watched a few of your own dramas to be able to spot a snake. Otherwise, you look untrustworthy yourself, and actually that changes the way that I would write this K-drama, that you would be essentially a cohort, a co-conspirator of the main antagonist. And I'm saying, like, he really oversaw a great boom in K-drama. Studio Dragon, which is a real creative hub and producer of amazing K-dramas, also subsidiary of CJENM. Amazing. And so it was spun off, and well, he oversaw that whole thing as well. So let's not besmirch your impact on K-drama, K-entertainment, the Korean wave around the world over just a little bit of a Jezebel tying you around her finger. Now, the second thing is that we have to get rid of the hostage situation on the 16th floor, if they even actually go there. We don't know where them girls are locked up in their Stockholm situation, but the New Jeans parents, they need to have a come to Jesus moment and realize that the best situation and future for their daughters is to separate themselves from Min Hee-jin. Nobody has to try that hard to lock you into a Stockholm situation if it really is beneficial for you. There's some other thing going on there. But I think what Hybe can do is leverage things that they do give to the New Jeans girls and take it away, or threaten to take it away in a way that won't create a scandal. Because, you know, of course, I think what Hybe and the new ADOR management is suffering from is that they don't want to do anything that can then be manipulated and used against them. So they're treating them with kid gloves. But in the long run, just like a lot of those, you know, videos you see about confronting bullies, is that once you give a little bit of a fight back and defend yourself, they just go running. And so I think they need to threaten some changes. Maybe, and Korean people are so good at being able to threaten without having it blow back on them. So threaten their shelter, their luxury apartments, but don't put it in that way like, oh, we're going to cancel your contract. maybe they can find a way where they're saying like, well, it's violating some codes, or the maintenance fee is too expensive and you don't want that to come out of your eventual payout, or the budgets for their promos, or maybe the auto-tune suddenly doesn't work in the studio, lenses, lighting. But I think a big thing is that they should probably change or threaten to change the contracting with the music video director, because that person's been in their pocket for so long, and test to see whether they really depend on him, over depend on him to make their image. And maybe they're going to get some music video director that, you know, doesn't know how to use the lights as well, or the composer, the songs kind of threaten behind the scenes that all the good songs are just going to go to Le Seraphim or ILLIT. There's a lot I think you can do, but in the end, I think the parents should be told, because it is the truth, that the longer they associate themselves with Min Hee-jin, the more their girls are going to look crazy by association. The more their girls are going to look less trustworthy and honestly less investable because of their ongoing commitment to craziness. You don't think that other mamas and daddies in that situation are just waiting for a green light to have at them? Just saying. Instead of an injunction meeting about Min Hee-jin and all of her problems, those parents need to consider that they need to have some meetings of their own to actually take care of the New Jeans girls. Isn't that what people are there for to begin with? It's the artists, the music, not Min Hee-jin and her elaborate attempts. They need to forget about all of this like other drama, which is also a reason why you want to separate the business and the production. There's not enough time, obviously, with Min Hee-jin doing all this scheming, and even under the best scenarios, that's the environment it is. You need to have somebody completely dedicated with defending the fort, fortifying the fort, and then have somebody else or another team lead the production. Because you can't have people saying like, oh, well, we were taking care of corporate takeovers and like manipulation of Kakao Talk shares and like, and not do the music. You're there for the music. So let's hear a song. All right, guys, what do you think? We have coming up this week the October 15th National Assembly testimony by Hanni about like Hello Gate. And then the 17th, we have J-Hope returning from the military and the special shareholders meeting. And then on the 25th, we're going to have the deadline for the judge, and the judge will rule on this injunction then. But what are they going to injunct? Because it already, whatever could have been injuncted happened October 17th. So more drama to come. Put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.